Hello, this is Lucas Palmeira from Imaginando, and I'm here to give another tutorial on DRC. For today's tutorial, I'm gonna teach you how to make some sounds from the song Take On Me by the group Norwegian band called Aha. This is a song that actually has a lot of different synthesizers used, and it has probably a DX7 bass. They used it a lot at that time. And also, I think the lead is also probably a mixture of some synthesizers, but I believe there is some PPG wave synth in there. So what I'm trying to say with this is that we're going to use DRC, which is an analog modeling synthesizer, to recreate sounds that are wavetable and FM synthesis. I think we got really close to it, but remember, we're doing this tutorial so you can understand that you can use these kinds of sounds and create be creative to use these sounds on your own composition. So it's just to give you an idea of what you can do. So let's get right into it. I'm gonna start with the bass sound, which sounds something like this. And I'm gonna start by taking out this reverb, first equalizer, second equalizer. Now we can go and bring back the default patch. And the first thing that we're going to do, since it has this kind of hollow sound, we can be pretty sure that we're going for a square wave. And first thing we're going to do is change the first oscillator to a square wave and drop the master to 586. Okay. Pregain at 870. Oscillator at maximum and oscillator 2 at 759. Now on second oscillator, we're going to change it also to a square wave and detune it to 076. Okay. Now we're going to go to the sub-oscillator, change it to a square wave as well, and raise it 1 octave. And now raise the volume to 438. Now raise ring modulator to maximum. Change performance mode from poly to mono. And now, on the filter side, we raised the envelope generator 2 amount to maximum. Let's drop the cutoff frequency to 0. Change the mode from a low pass 2-pole to a low pass 4-pole to a low pass 2-pole. And raise the resonance to 328. Now I go here to the modulation of the filter and raise the keyboard to 494. This means the higher the note, the higher the cutoff. Okay. Now let's go to the first envelope generator. This envelope generator is responsible for controlling the amplitude of the sound through time. And we bring it to 3, 4, 6. Sustain at 0. Release at 247. Envelope generator 2. This one is responsible of affecting the behavior of the cutoff frequency through time. Attack and sustain at 0. Decay at 204. Release 340. Okay. Now let's go to the reverb and give it 235 amount. Decay 580. And damping 333. Finally, modulation at 100, which is probably default value. Yes. And let's go to the chorus. Turn chorus on, a rate of 142, and a depth of 543. Okay. Okay, now for the equalizers. This one is basically cutting lows below 55 hertz. It has a 5 dB decrease from 563 hertz below, and a boost of 3.75 kilohertz of 5 dBs up. This one is boosting a little bit of the mediums and highs as well again. And finally, we have here a medium room with 43 dry wet to finish it off. Okay? So this is the bass. Let's go now to the keys. Nice keys. Let's bring them back to the default patch. And first thing I'm going to do is change the first oscillator. Since you have that kind of, again, here, since we're playing higher, it's not you don't feel it as hollow, but it's kind of a more boxy sound. You feel the lack of some harmonics, and that's because it is a square wave instead of a sawtooth, which has all the partials. And first thing I'm going to do is raise 1 octave here on the square and change the pulse width to 533. Sorry, 593. Now here on the amplifier, let's drop the master to 802. Pre-gain at 508. 80, saw 580. Oscillator 1 at 882. Okay, about there. And now let's raise the ring modulator to 894. Okay. Let's go to the modulation page of the oscillator. I'm gonna first go here to the LFO1 and change the rate to 350. It's already on 350. So now I can go onto LFO1 and raise it to 210. Okay. Now filter. On the filter, envelope generator 2 amount to maximum. Cutoff frequency of 678. And a resonance of 164. Now we go to the modulation page of the filter and raise the keyboard to 395. This means the higher the note, the higher the cutoff. And on the VCA, the same on the keyboard, but minus 383. This means the higher the note, the lower the volume. Now for the first envelope generator, which modulates the amplitude, we have 0, 8 to 7 on the decay. Sustain of 191. Release of 704. Second envelope generator, attack and sustain at 0, decay at 321. And release of 285. Now let's put some reverb on this. 387 amount. Sorry, 321. 327. Yeah, 327. Modulation 111. Oh, about there. Yeah. Decay of 754. And a damping of 506. Yeah, it's about there. Finally, we go to the chorus, turn chorus on, give it a rate of 173 and 669 of depth. Okay. Now let's go to the organ. Sounds like this. Okay, so let's bring back, I'm going to turn off this equalizer, the delay modulator, and I'll bring back the default patch. Okay, first thing we're going to do is go to the amplifier, master at 796. Okay, we have here this send already to a reverb. I'm gonna take it for now. We were on the amplifier, 796 on master, pre-gain of 531, oscillator 1 maximum, oscillator 2 797. Sub-oscillator 556. Now we go to the second oscillator and detune it to 076. And sub-oscillator, let's raise 1 octave and change it to a square. Okay. Now here on modulation, we have modulation of LFO1 with oscillator 1. Let's go to LFO1 and change the rate to 050. And now raise the modulation of oscillator 1 with LFO1 to 202. Okay. Now let's go to the filter and envelope generator 2 amount at 727. Low pass 4-pole to a low pass 2-pole. Cut off at 248. Resonance of 262. And now For the first envelope generator, we've got 0852, sustain of 741, and a release of 222. Envelope generator 2, we got 0084, sustain at 648, release at maximum. Now reverb 321, decay 654, damping of 486, modulation of 117, and now for the chorus we got 210 rate and a depth of 691. Okay, and here we have it. Let's now go to the send, put it at maximum, turn delay modulator on and the equalizer. Okay, let's now go to the last sound, which is the lead. I've got two equalizers, first one, a compressor, and another equalizer. Now let's bring back the default patch. Okay, and first oscillator, let's raise one octave. Go to amplifier, 722. On the amp, pregain at 809. Oscillator 2 at maximum. Drop one octave. And detune it to 124. Now let's raise the sub-oscillator to 858. And the ring modulator to 395. Now on the filter, envelope generator 2 amount at maximum, change the filter from a low pass 4-pole to a low pass 2-pole, and drop the cutoff to 838. And raise the resonance to 296. Now for the first envelope generator, we got an attack of 049, decay 352, sustain 0, release 105. Now for the second envelope generator, second envelope generator, we got 043. Decay 230, 0 sustain, and 099 on the release. Now for the reverb, let's give it 340 amount. Decay 691. Damping 290. And modulation 136. Okay, now we have here this equalizer boosting the highs above 6K. Then a glue compressor with maximum attack and minimum release and maximum ratio. So We boost a little bit of the attack of the sounds. And finally, another boost of high frequencies above 4.6 kilohertz. And we got our sound. The final sound is exactly the same patch as before, but the only thing that one needs to do is just duplicate the track, drop 1 octave on the first oscillator. The second oscillator, instead of having a fine tune of 0.76, it has a fine tune of minus 0.88, and raise 1 octave on the sub oscillator. And that's it. Everything else is the same. So we got everything ready, guys. So hope you were able to follow this through. And this was it, guys. I really hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Remember that we have new content coming up every week, so give us a like if you like this one, and give us a subscribe to support our channel. That would mean a lot to us. So I will say goodbye for now and see you next week with new content. Goodbye.